Coast Business Radio is the home for business from the Gold Coast to Byron Bay and beyond. Whether you're an entrepreneur, small business owner, or just managing your family's assets, the Coast Business Radio podcast can help. Find the resources you need to manage your money, start your latest venture, grow your business, and be able to compete in a global market.
Talking business, nothing but talk.
Main Beach Spring Flower Festival is on September 7th and 8th. Food, fashion, flowers, fun, and it's free. Tedder Avenue will be a floral wonderland with exhibitors and entertainment. You can win a luxury Tulip River cruise for two, airfares included. Go to the website and buy your tickets. mainbeachflowerfestival.com.au for all the details. Why not catch the tram and make a day of it? September 7th and 8th, Main Beach Spring Flower Festival.
The average Australian farmer produces enough food to feed 600 people. And 93% of our daily food supply nationwide. So when our farmers are impacted by natural disasters, there's a direct effect on all of us. Our farmers need you. Please give generously at ruralaid.org.au.
I go local because it helps support small businesses.
Anything that's local and accessible is always a thumbs up for us.
I'm all about supporting the underdog. The profit is directly spent back into that community.
Small businesses tend to employ people around the area.
They grow, obviously the community grows here.
When you have small businesses, it creates a friendlier community.
If we don't use them, then they won't do that in the future.
I go local to grow local.
Today we're coming to you from the Sunset Cafe Bar and Grill. Next to Palazzo Versace and SeaWorld Gold Coast, Sunset Cafe Bar and Grill is Marina Mirage's hidden delight. And you can find out more by visiting their website, sunsetbarandgrill.com.au. On Coast Business Radio today, we talk franchising with Luke McKavanagh from Stone Group Lawyers. We have a blooming good conversation with Susan Donovan, President of the Main Beach Association, about the challenges ahead for Main Beach and the forthcoming Flower Festival. We talk business with Dr Baden U'ren, Assistant Professor of Entrepreneurship at Bond Business School, and Shane Atkins from Gold Coast Business Ghost Rakes. And he tells us what you don't see is what you get. And finally, don't forget to subscribe. Coast Business Radio is on Podbean, iTunes, and your favourite podcast app.
Talking business, nothing but talk.
Luke McKavanagh is an associate at Stone Group Lawyers, specialising in franchising and commercial law. Located on the Gold Coast, Luke is an active member of both the Queensland Law Society Franchising Law Committee and the Franchise Council of Australia Legal Committee. And Luke, nice to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, the ACCC has just produced a report on disclosure practices in food franchising, which has some unpalatable findings.
That's an understatement.
Yes, tell us about these findings.
Well, there's a number of findings in this report where they have examined the practices of 12 particular food franchisors in the industry. So the first main finding is the disclosure of details in a franchisor's disclosure statement. Now, under the law, a franchisor must maintain a statement which is in a set format that they must provide to a franchisee before the franchisee proceeds with signing the agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So, out of this report, the key areas they focused on firstly were the details of former and current franchisees of the franchise system. So the reason for including these details in a disclosure document is as part of a new franchisee's due diligence process when they're investigating whether the franchise is right for them.
Mm-hmm.
These details are in there so that they can call and have a chat to current franchisees to see if they're happy with the system,
mm-hmm.
and also franchisees who've exited the system over the last 3 years to really gauge the reasons why. So they get, it's essentially both sides of the story. And on top of that, there is also the requirement to give details for franchisees who've operated in that particular territory that the franchisee is going into for the last 10 years. So there can be quite a number of details, and the ACCC is really focusing on meaningful contact details, because many franchisors will simply just include a residential address and perhaps a phone number. So they're really focusing on, in the modern day, being communication by email is such a main communication method, focusing on wanting to see email addresses, mobile phone numbers, anything substantial that will assist that due diligence process.
You've represented both sides.
Yes.
Jekyll and Hyde, but
yes.
Anyway, I love him, hate him, can't stand him. Yes, no, slap me, stop that. But that's what it's like for you, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But your advice for someone moving into a situation where they want to take over a food franchise, you would suggest due diligence. So part of that would be to find out the history.
Definitely.
Okay, wouldn't that be, I mean, surely you do that before you took on a business. So why aren't they doing that in the first place? I mean, if there's this sort of a smoke and mirrors thing, as a lawyer, you would advise them that this is what's happening. It's a smoke and mirrors sort of thing. Don't do it, because red flags. So why would they do it?
Well, a lot of the time it comes down to people who are new to franchising see a franchising model as basically a package deal where they can walk into a business and all the legwork has been done for them. So a lot of franchisees will not seek professional advice because they believe that the documents the franchisor gives to them will contain a complete picture of everything they need, whereas these documents, especially the disclosure document, only form part of what a franchisee needs to make that informed business decision.
So I sort of see it though. Guy works for, say, a telco, gets a big payout, says, I've got to do something with my life, I'm 45, and I'll buy a particular, say, store. And what they do is they pay all this money to a group, and the group says, you will do this, you will do that, you will do this. So really, you're paying a group to work full-time. In my mind, it doesn't really seem like a business, because you're still being basically employed. You take a piece of the profits or what's left, whereas before, when you worked for someone, there was none of that. You just got paid a weekly wage. So the escapism bit, or the thing to look for the nirvana in business, and that you don't have to use your brains, you don't really have to have a huge desire or something from the heart of the mind, seems to be a major a major negative. It's a huge negative to actually do that in the first place.
Yes.
And that's really bad, because if you're going to open a business, I mean, when you open a business, it's Monday to Friday. Actually, sorry, I tell a lie. It's 7 days a week, because you're not going to have that life balance, and you won't even have the harmony part, because you're just going to be working for the man, just a different man. So why would they do it? What's the reasons?
Well, a lot of people choose franchising because they see it as a way into becoming their own business owner, but not being an employee, which a lot of the time that's not really the case.
No, it's not, because you still, like, there's some great companies out there, like McDonald's and all those, they have so much in place, and the training they give you. And there are others that don't do that.
Exactly. So a lot of franchisees will choose franchising because they hear about the good systems out there that provide all those levels of support. So what really makes a franchise special is that the franchisor has already done the legwork of building the brand name, building the customer base of the business, building the market reputation. Whereas if you are operating and setting up your fresh new business, that's a lot of legwork you would have to do yourself. And it's why I think a lot of people go into franchising, but not realising that it's a relationship where they're taking that element of the legwork being done for them, but they're also having to give over a large element of control to the franchisor, as well as a lot of continuing fees during the relationship, which is something that was also focused on in the report by the ACCC, that so in a disclosure document, a franchisor must detail all the reasonable and foreseeable expenses a franchisee is likely to incur during the life of the franchise agreement. So the ACCC really are wanting to focus on a higher level of detail. For example, someone who has not owned a business before may not realise that employing staff members will include adhering to paying minimum award wages, paying employee entitlements, paying superannuation. That's just for one employee. When it goes into multiple employees, there can be a lot of unforeseen expenses, together with rent, which at the moment is also a large issue in the franchising industry, with increasing rents and franchisees struggling to maintain businesses with revenues to keep up with those rents.
How would they, just the rent thing, I mean, if just say if I had this wonderful coffee shop, great cakes, nice chairs, smack bang in the middle of a shopping centre, you've got to know that they're going to put that up, because it's, you're smack bang in the middle of this shopping centre, and shopping centres becoming more controlling now. You can't sell that, you can't do this, so they actually control it. So the poor person who's bought into this, say, coffee shop, they're told by head office, you must do that, you've got to pay that, you've got to pay that. The market they're in this great location in the shopping centre says, you've got to do that, you've got to do that, you've got to pay that, your rent's going up, you can't do that. Why in the hell would you ever want to do that? Because it's really, I mean, franchising, it's a great model, but the whole playing field nowadays is not level. So, you're a lawyer. Why would you, if I came to you and said, that's what I want to do, I want to have a great life, not too much, just go to work, take control of it, what would you say to me, knowing all those things? Like, run to the hills.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
It can be a great, McDonald's, McDonald's have universities and stuff, but there are a lot of companies out there, a lot of franchisors out there that have, there's some debatable practices.
Exactly, and I think that's what's given franchising a little bit of a bad name recently in the media, is the acts of a few franchisors have really reflected negatively on the industry. In answer to your question before, when a client comes to me expressing an interest in entering a franchise, my job isn't to tell them, no, don't go ahead with this. My job is to tell them, okay, these are the benefits of entering a franchise, which there are a lot of benefits.
Hell yeah.
There are a lot of very successful franchise systems out there where they've got very happy franchisees who are operating profitable and expanding businesses. But then again, there are also some franchise systems out there where that may not necessarily be the case. So it's really up to the franchisee to make sure that they do their own thorough investigations before entering into that franchise, whether it be legal advice, accounting advice, business advice, preferably all three, because at the moment it's not mandatory for that advice to be obtained. And the ACCC even noted in their report that I think it was up to 40% of franchisees don't get that advice before they sign a franchise agreement.
But that's terrible. That, I mean, and it's terrible on both sides, because not to have that advice, have those figures, have that information, I mean, you don't know what's out there. And for the head office, the franchisor, not to pass it on, that's really bad too. And that's the not misinformation, but that's a lack of information that sort of tarnishes the rest of the industry. I mean, the other thing that comes to mind, I won't say the name of the company, but there was one group that weren't paying the correct wages, And now they're saying there's another huge group that may also fall into that same category. But I see that it's not the people that are running these stores. They just don't know, and that's the lack of information from head office.
Exactly. So in most franchising relationships, it's standard for a franchisor to maintain an operations manual, which is basically a go-to guide of how to run a franchise business. A lot of the time, these operations manuals will direct franchisees in the right direction to these resources.
Yep.
But unfortunately, there's so much information out there where franchisees who may not have prior business experience may just get a little bit overwhelmed and not realise the extent of their obligations, which goes back around to, which is why the ACCC is really pushing for the onus to be on franchisors to give as much information as possible to these franchisees when entering into this business arrangement, because most franchise systems, when a franchisee, once they sign their agreement, they go through a training program, which is a one-to-one, essentially 101 on how to run their business. It's not going to cover everything that they need to run their business. So that's why even before signing a franchise agreement, they should be going to their accountant and business advisor, coming up with a business plan on whether this venture is going to be affordable for them, and give them a return on their investment by the end of the agreement, or give them a profitable business to sell during the course of their franchise agreement.
I come across people who think, and they say, "Oh, you're your own business. Life is so good to you. Monday to Friday, take time off when you want to take time off. Profits are great, yada yada." It's not the case with most businesses. Ivan Meisner, Uncle Ivan, actually he's not my uncle, but I wish he was, but Ivan Meisner from BNI, and he said, people will never find being in business, forget the life balance. It's just not going to happen. What you will have, though, is harmony.
Yes.
So do they find harmony with these systems, with these groups? You buy into a franchise, is there harmony there, or is it, what's the end result besides trying to make a buck?
Well, that's why I tell every client before they sign anything is have a good think to yourself to see whether, first of all, this is going to be a business that you're going to enjoy operating, whether you're going to love operating this business, whether you can see yourself working in this business every day, and whether you're going to enjoy that. Because a lot of people may see the franchise model and think, oh, this will be a fantastic model for me to operate a business. I'll put in a manager and I'll be able to put up my feet at home. Unfortunately, that's not the case. A franchise business is like many other small businesses where if you're going to run the business well, you're going to have to be hands-on and see that it is operated to standards just to ensure that things run smoothly and you're adhering to the systems and procedures that are put in place by the franchisor for you to get to that stage where the business will be successful.
Why is it different in Australia than, say, from the United States? I mean, or is it the same? I mean, what's what's happening now in the media with these systems, these groups, and there's a couple that we can think of immediately. Is it the same in the US, or are we a bit lax when it comes to dotting the I's and crossing the T's?
No, it's quite the opposite, actually. I think Australia is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the world when it comes to franchising.
Then why is this happening then? Why are these things dropping through the cracks in the floor?
Well, I think it's for a number of reasons. It's lack of people realising what they're going to have ahead of them when they're making this investment. I think it's a lack of education. I think it's also we're in an industry where there's a lot of media coverage at the moment where things like this may not be reflective of the entire franchise community. So a lot of people may watch the news and see a adverse news story on a franchise system and then think, okay, well, this might be reflective of the whole industry. I'm going to shy away from franchising. So I think it's a number of factors as well as changing market factors. So every franchise system needs to be adaptable to market change. With all the rising rents, with the rising costs of living, some franchise systems where the model would have been a fantastic model 5-10 years ago may not be that same level today. So it really just depends on how adaptable that franchise system is to change and how amenable the franchisees and the franchisor are to working together to adapt to that change.
Must be a real concern to the Franchise Council of Australia, I think they're called, or something. What are they called in Australia?
Yes, the FCA.
There you are, I got that right. I had to really go into the memory bank there, but they must also be concerned because it really is an honourable industry with these scallywags that are really tarnishing. Now, as you said before we went to air, bad apple, a couple of bad apples. So will this change? Will it change?
I certainly think there will be changes. At the beginning of the year, I believe in March, the government released their report following an inquiry into the franchising sector, which recommended 71 changes to the sector.
Wow, it's a lot.
It is a lot. There was quite a lot of comment taken from within the industry, from both franchisors and franchisees. Following that, a government task force has been convened, and just recently they released a update that they're focusing in on, I believe, 7 to 12 areas from those 71 that they really think require further input. So I believe there will be changes on the horizon for the franchising industry. It may not be each of the 71 changes that were originally proposed, but I certainly think there will be changes out there to introduce a bit more fairness and transparency into the sector.
The future of franchising, where do you see it in Australia?
I see it as a model that, subject to adaptability, can continue to be successful. I think just in the past 20 years since the introduction to the Franchising Code of Conduct, which is a mandatory code that all franchisors and franchisees must comply with, has really seen the sector put in place systems and procedures to be followed for these models of success. So I believe, and I do see that the franchising industry to be sustainable and to grow within the future.
Must make you feel really good, though, when you've given advice, you've pointed a small business in the right direction, and they succeed. You must feel really, just within yourself, like I could be on a white horse with my sword, Sir Galahad, or something like that. But you must feel really good.
There's nothing better than seeing a person that comes to me wanting to buy a franchise, working with them to work through the documents, explaining to them what the pros and cons are to the relationship of that franchising relationship, for them to take on those comments and adapt those into their business practices, and then to come back to me in a couple of years' time and say, Luke, this business is fantastic, I'm loving it. For me, it's really nice to see that.
Bring it on, baby.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fantastic, isn't it?
It is.
Now, if somebody wants to find out more about franchising, either side, how do they do that?
Well, the ACCC has some fantastic resources on their website for both franchisors, for franchisees. They even have, which is relevant to the recent report released, a model disclosure document for franchisors to use, which contains all the details that they should be at minimum disclosing to their franchisees to ensure that they're complying with, what are quite stringent regulations. So I think just being aware of the resources and help that is out there, and at the end of the day, I've never come across a franchisee who's spoken to me and said, after I've recommended they contact other franchisees in that system, come back and say to me, I didn't really hear many good things, I'm having second thoughts. The feedback I always get is that, if someone is a franchisee is happy operating their business, then they will tell them that to someone that's looking and investigating to whether they buy. And hearing that honest, open feedback can really be the decision maker or the decision breaker for someone considering a franchise.
Now, big question. Somebody wanted to contact a really good lawyer. How would they do that? Do you know of any? Oh, I'm looking at one. How would they contact you?
Well, I am based here in Southport at a firm called Stone Group Lawyers. So I've specialised in franchising for a number of years, and I'm more than happy to have a chat to anyone who has a question about franchising and wants to know a bit more about, how the relationship works, and, if they want some direction on where to go from there.
And the web address?
So you can find us at www.stonegroup.com.au.
Luke, thank you very much, and maybe I'll catch you one day in a great group. McDonald's, one of my favourite of all time, is much to my wife's horror. She says, he's back at Macca's, but I love Macca's. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Here's what's happening.
On Thursday, September 5, it's the Robina Hub Gathering. The aim is to bring together businesses in Robina and surrounds, no matter what size or industry, bring them together in a social environment and to encourage connection, which will hopefully evolve into collaboration. Guest speaker for the day is the Honourable Karen Andrews MP, and the location is the Mad Asian Kitchen and Bar at Robina Town Centre. For more information, visit the website therobinahub.com.au. The Builders Summit Team and Systems 2019 is on the 6th and 7th of September at the Crown Plaza Surface Paradise. This is a great event for residential building company owners, and to find out more, visit the website builderssummit.com. This has been Darren for Coast Business Radio.
Susan Donovan is President and Secretary of the Main Beach Association. The association's aims are to retain the Main Beach environment as a livable, thriving community and promote responsible development. Susan, nice to meet you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, tell us about the association and some of the big issues you're involved with.
Well, I guess it's been a pretty much of a roller coaster the last 4 years since we set up. Our origins came really from wanting to protect the Spit from high-rise development, and there was a big push on to take the Spit high-rise. So the various local people and organisations got together and really had a huge campaign to prevent that happening, and we were very fortunate that we managed to stop it. The state government stepped in and has come up with a master plan that will ensure that the Spit remains low rise. We're not anti-development at all, and the Spit does need development, commercial development, but not high rise.
I recall someone saying it needs to be a bit like the lungs of New York, like a Central Park.
Absolutely.
I don't know if it has the same impact because our lungs are really looked after well on the coast, but as for the natural beauty and retaining that non-high-rise factor, it's very important, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And also, because you've got such dense high-rise over in Southport, just across the Broadwater, and people need somewhere to go for recreation. And the Spit is just fantastic because it caters for everyone, people fishing, walking, dogs. It's probably the most popular place on the Gold Coast.
But now it's going to change. I mean, what's the status with the cruise terminal, for example?
It's very controversial.
It is? Will it go ahead? I mean, in some areas I can see it makes sense.
But out on the surf?
No, it doesn't actually matter. I'd hate to be deboarding.
I know. I mean, you just got to look at the swell out there.
Yep.
Shoving a long jetty out for a cruise ship, really, it's just not viable.
No, they'd have to have a very long jetty.
Yep.
So what development do you see happening then for the Spit?
More hotels,
Low-rise ones?
Yeah, like Versace, like the Sheraton Grand Mirage.
Yep.
Classy places, some good restaurants, activities for kids, much better bike paths. It's quite dangerous biking there at the moment. Lots and lots of recreational facilities, but definitely we're not anti-development. We're not. People say, just a pack of greenies, but actually there has to be development, and people have to make some money.
I agree, but how does it become sustainable then? You have to have, as you said, the development. Can you actually limit those the high rises?
Well, that's what the legislation does now.
Yes,
but
that could change.
It could, a change of government.
Yep.
I think both parties, Labor and the LNP, are pretty much committed to this master plan. They've spent millions on it, and I think to go back on that now would be very, very difficult.
Will that revitalise the whole area?
Yeah, and it does need revitalising. And the Waterways Authority have done a fabulous job down there. People haven't been for a while. Beautiful paths. They've kicked out all the overnight camper vans, which was,
I have nowhere to live.
Well, people can still go there, but the gates are shut at 8 o'clock at night.
Well, but I've often read though about some naughty boats not exactly following the waterways criteria. I mean, they dump things into it.
They sure do.
And a lot of trash in there.
Yeah.
Boats.
Yep.
Just let to sink.
Yep, they do. It's a real problem, actually.
Yes.
But Waterways do a very good job. I think they're probably the most popular organisation around in terms of a government authority. I've never heard anybody complain about them, unless you're some hoon, I guess, on a on a one of those dreadful water ski things.
I have trouble walking on water these days. But okay, Tedder Avenue, a famous landmark. It needs a bit of a shot in the arm, as you were saying prior to this chat. What sort of shots does it need?
It needs more people to love it. It's loved already by all the people who live in the vicinity on weekends, morning. It's packed with people in its cafes. But it's suffering the way most retail areas are suffering. People are buying online, which makes it very hard to run fashion shops. I think another challenge is that it doesn't have a post office, and some of the basics that make a place really an essential place to be. It's a lovely place to go for coffee.
Great restaurants.
Yep.
Got to send out a shout out, as they would say nowadays, a shout out to Damani's.
Yeah, good.
Yes, I mean, the wife sort of ties me down. Whenever I mention that name, it's don't mention Damani's.
Because everyone will go there.
Yeah, it's a great place. It's my favourite. But there are other restaurants on the Gold Coast, apparently.
Oh, there are.
Yes, and I don't see those except Damani's.
Well, so much is about fashion.
Yes.
Suddenly it's very fashionable to go to Burleigh and some of those southern suburbs, which are doing a really great, funky kind of job. Even
groovy.
Very groovy. Even places like Churn Park have become really places to go to because they've got specialist bakeries and patisseries that make you want to actually drive over there.
Is there a master plan to revitalise Tedder Avenue?
The council is very, very involved in this, and they do have a lot of plans, and that's why they supported us so generously in getting this flower festival up and going, because it's a matter of bringing people back to Tedder Avenue to remember how beautiful it is. It's still as beautiful as ever.
The Spring Flower Festival. I was talking again before how I said, being a bloke, I'm football, flowers, the wife. Being a lovely lady, I must say that. Chris will be listening. She says that football, unless you're a Richmond supporter, but flowers, loves them. So we'll be here. Tell us about what we would expect to see for that weekend.
Right. Well, the street will really be awash with flowers and floral installations. So, for example, the rubbish bins will have beautiful fresh flowers just cascading out of them. The rails there's going to be a wonderful farmyard of animals and all planted in all the gardens covered in fresh flowers. So that's going to be all up and down the street. Most of the businesses have invested quite heavily in floral arrangements. So they will look beautiful, and already a lot of work has gone on into screening empty shops with beautiful floral motifs. We've got lovely banners up in Tedder Avenue which really look gorgeous, which will stay up for a year. So it's been a big effort by the local community working with the council to beautify it.
Okay, a flower festival. How did this come about? I mean, it just doesn't happen. You have to work on it, and then it has to grow.
It does.
Being a flower festival.
It does. Well, really the origin of the idea came from Margot de Groot, who's a lawyer who also runs a beautiful flower shop on Tedder Avenue, which is called Flowers on Tedder. And she'd been to the Chelsea Flower Show and been just absolutely knocked out by how gorgeous it is every year. Mind you, they have a population of 58 million to do that. So it's a somewhat different situation. But she was, like all of us, very worried about vacant shops and businesses not succeeding. And her idea was really to have some beautiful event in Tedder Avenue which would really show it off to its best. Which it will, but it's not only flowers. We've got stilt walkers, we've got dancers, we've got singers, we've got a whole program of music. We've created a rooftop entertainment hub.
I know. Where's this going to be?
It's going to be on one of the really big car parks.
Oh, wow.
On the corner of Hughes and Tedder Avenues.
Yep.
The owner of the building has generously let us have it for the weekend.
Oh, how fabulous.
And there's a program of, top people like the top gardening people from ABC Gardening Australia, Jerry Colby-Williams, a lot of headline speakers. We've got Indigenous performers, a kids troupe from Southport, of Indigenous kids, some gritty blues, and speakers who've come up from Victoria to talk about beautiful books that they've published on flowers and art. So a really lovely, varied program. Lots of workshops for people to go to, including with Bart Hassam, who is the world champion at the moment, floral designer. So big names. There's a floral competition called Table for Two, where students have a day to create some beautiful table arrangement of flowers.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's a lot going on.
It's a really complex festival. There's got so much happening.
We also had, we created a couple of ticketed events which sold out really fast. We got together with Husk Ink Gin, who have, of course, the botanical gin that changes colour.
You're lovely.
And they are hosting for us in one of the local cafes an ink gin soiree. And the door prize is a Porsche for the weekend.
Oh, that's lovely. So I'll collect it after this.
Yeah. And
with the gin, of course.
Exactly. That was just incredibly popular. We've got a wonderful high tea at the Southport Yacht Club.
It's sounding a little posh.
It is actually.
High tea, gin, Porsche?
Yeah.
Where's the Bentley?
Well, you can't, what
it's like. You'll see a few of those too.
You can really only go with one car company. We learnt that.
Yes. But a fantastic time. But from the start to now, an enormous amount of organisation,
huge. And
all volunteers though.
We do have a terrific event manager who works with us 2 days a week, very experienced, and her experience just invaluable. And we had no idea when we started all the council permits you need. Extraordinarily detailed insurance.
The terrible word insurance.
Exactly.
Public liability, another one. There's two words.
Security, all the things you would never think of.
So the overheads met by the council?
No.
Because the overheads are they're huge.
It's expensive. And the biggest cost of the lot is the fresh flowers. And then the wonderful thing is we've got this young rock star designer who does all the fashion and TV. She really is a rock star. She's the creative genius behind all of these installations.
Oh, wow.
They're not only in the street. There are some in shops, empty shops that have been given to us. And one example is the whole community has got together with the Gold Coast libraries and created thousands of paper flowers out of old library books. Can you believe?
Oh, that's amazing.
And these all cascade out in a particular room, all lit. So it's really unique things that have never happened anywhere else in the world. There's an immersive room of fresh flowers that people go into. As I said, there's that student competition with 12 students competing with some pretty decent prizes.
Yes.
So it is complex.
But what do you want at the end of after this great festival? Everybody's had a great time. What's the outcome that you want?
We want to put Tedder Avenue back on the map and have people have fun and think, my goodness, this is a beautiful place. Why haven't we been coming here recently?
But has it ever got off the map? Maybe there isn't the attractions to bring people there. So it's still on the map. People know Tedder Avenue. You talk, anybody in the Gold Coast, they know Tedder Avenue.
Do.
But you say to them, what does Tedder Avenue mean? And it's like, older people, a couple of restaurants.
Place to be seen, to be nicely dressed.
Yes, so
a bit like a little double
bay.
bay.
Doesn't it? It needs to be more.
It does. It needs entertainment. It needs regular events that bring people in. It needs the local business owners to be perhaps a little bit more proactive.
Because it's very easy if you're a business owner to get down on the lip because...
Oh, yeah.
But, they always say the first thing that takes a bit of a hit is the advertising budget, which advertising is just letting people know about you.
Yep.
So if that takes a hit, then you're not getting the message out.
No.
Then what happens then is that less people come and it's like the snowball that the end of it, you're not there.
No, I think the other thing, what's interesting to me is that some of the businesses that really are doing rather well are ones run by young people who are very savvy about social media. And
two terrible words. Actually, one nice word, media is right, but social media, no.
Well, yes.
Never the two should mix because sometimes they're not really that social.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, really. But for a younger demographic, everything is social media. They don't read the local newspaper. They barely watch television. So we actually invested in a very ambitious social media program, along with conventional radio advertising. And I think you just have to have a mix of the two.
You do, and they feed off each other too.
They do, absolutely.
Okay, the future then of Tedder Avenue. Okay, we've got this wonderful festival. You're talking about these, some nice restaurants and stuff. Where is the future?
I think the future is providing a particularly beautiful location for people to come to and visit. It's beautiful at night as well as in the daytime. The council has done a wonderful job. All the trees are lit beautifully.
They are lovely.
And we just have to hope that the word has got out there that Tedder Avenue is a very beautiful place to visit at a time when most retail businesses are having a really tough time. Yeah,
and before you're talking about the population of Main Beach.
Yes.
And I think you were saying that a third, generally in a building, live here.
Yeah,
and the rest
in the high-rise buildings.
Yeah, and the rest are
Melbourneites and turned from Tasmania and New Zealand.
And Sydney
places
also.
With less so Sydney.
They're more broad beach.
But also Sydney. The Sydney climate's not that bad, and they've got good beaches as well. It's really the people who come from a miserable winter climate, like New Zealand and Tasmania and Melbourne, and also a lot of people from Brisbane who use the Gold Coast as their holiday house.
So that's actually a major problem, isn't it? Because you haven't got, even though you got a lot of homes, there's basically 2/3 less.
That's right.
So you got these empty apartments and stuff that are rented out maybe for a holiday.
A lot are not. A lot of the buildings, such as the one I live in, don't allow short-term lets. They're people who have got very nice second properties there, which even if they could let them out, they wouldn't.
But you can actually bring others outside in. It needs to develop.
Yeah.
You need to have those specialty restaurants, I would imagine.
That's right, absolutely.
Bakeries.
Yeah. Some really high-end stuff.
Some good delis.
Yes. There used to be things like that.
Yeah.
There used to be a beautiful fruit shop there. I must say, when I came back and I found it was gone, I just about cried. So it's tough. And as I said, there's not a post office up there.
No.
People have to come down here to Marina Mirage to do their, post a letter, run a business. So it makes it very difficult.
How would you, as we wind this up, how would you describe then, in a word, Tedder Avenue?
A village. I think it's a very pretty village.
There's a lot of words, though. But I do agree, it's a beautiful place, beautiful part of the world. Hello to Damani's. But a lovely, lovely place. Lovely chatting with you. Look forward to seeing you at the festival.
Good.
Maybe we could share a Chardonnay together.
I hope so.
Main Beach Spring Flower Festival is on September 7th and 8th. Food, fashion, flowers, fun, and it's free. Tedder Avenue will be a floral wonderland with exhibitors and entertainment. You can win a luxury tulip river cruise for 2, airfares included. Go to the website and buy your tickets. mainbeachflowerfestival.com.au for all the details. Why not catch the tram and make a day of it? September 7th and 8th, Main Beach Spring Flower Festival.
You're listening to Coast Business Radio with Mike Ryan.
Dr Baden U'ren is a nationally recognised entrepreneurship educator, leading Bond University's entrepreneurship and innovation disciplines for over a decade. Dr U'ren is an expert in entrepreneurship, innovation and business models and has won many teaching awards. He is also director of Bond's Commercialisation Centre. Dr U'ren, welcome.
Nice to see you, Mike.
You're head of entrepreneurship. Tell us about that.
It's an interesting title, and I actually love it. I think it's one of the best jobs you could possibly have in the world. I get the opportunity to be able to design and deliver entrepreneurship education across campus. And we do that in 3 ways. We have classroom experience, what students learn in the environs of a classroom. Then we have campus activities, typically co-curricular, so activities that students can engage in that don't lead directly to their degree, but are often much more rich in terms of their experience. And then we have community activities. So we run startup weekends, we run ideas camp, we do Gold Coast Demo Day, the premier startup event on the Gold Coast. We run some programs in some local schools. We do a range of different activities that are very community focused. So the role that I have at the university is very empowering in the sense that I have the discipline of in-class instruction, which is complemented by a lot of engaging activity outside of the classroom, which is where the magic really happens.
Entrepreneurship. Exactly what does it mean? Because people think, it's someone just doing business and somebody doing that and, into the marketing thing, show me the money, that sort of stuff. It's a combination of all of that, isn't it?
It is. So the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship is it's the wrong word. So
it's the wrong word.
So we don't teach entrepreneurship. What we teach is the entrepreneurial method. So it's a set of heuristics that sit in behind the entrepreneur, which defines the way in which they make decisions, the way in which they reason and act. And that is the discipline that sits underneath the entrepreneurial method. And you can break it down into a series of principles and attributes that can be taught. And that is the magic that exists within rigorous entrepreneurship education at an educational institution.
Important for business?
Essential for business.
But how many businesses really understand what they're doing without doing, as Alan Jones would say, without doing your homework?
So I'd like to take it back to this term entrepreneurship and what it actually is and how it's different from innovation, because they're bandied around a bit. There's the Australian Innovation Agenda, which came out in 2014, and what is innovation and what is entrepreneurship and why are they different? So entrepreneurship is the creation and capture of value in a market. So there's 2 parts to that. There's the creation of value, and value can be broad. It can be money, it can be social good, it can be environmental impact, it can be broad, right? But it's the creation and capture of value. So in order to be able to create and capture value, you need to have proven up that something is of value. And that's the innovation piece, because an innovation is purely just something new that creates value. You can't sell an innovation. it is like it's either an innovation or an invention. Yeah, it's a thing you come up with. Entrepreneurship is taking an innovation to market, packaging it up into a product or a service in which a consumer can consume and pay for, in a broad sense. Yeah, and so separating it into those two components, you can see that if innovation is simply something new that creates value, the necessary ingredient for innovation is just something new. It's a new idea. Yeah, a new idea. And new ideas can be somewhat new, incrementally new. They can be extraordinarily transformationally new. Yeah, and so you come back to your question as to is business entrepreneurial? Every business that is succeeding must be entrepreneurial to some extent because they're creating value for their customers and capturing that within an organisation.
Somebody goes into the franchise model and they buy a ready-made plan, which either you can succeed or you can fail, as we've seen lately in the news. And it's been around since Adam was a boy, so good ones, bad ones. Is that being an entrepreneur? Because you're told, I mean, I said to one guy that to me it seems like these people get laid off from work or they retire from work and they want to do something else, but we don't want to work for someone. We want to do our own stuff. I'll open up a store that's run by head office, got 10 other, 20 other, 30, 100 other stores, and I'll follow exactly what they say, so I'll give them all this money and I'll use their ideas and stuff. And to me, it just seems like they're actually paying to be in the same position they were before, but there's more risk involved. Is that being an entrepreneur?
So I'd like to take the discussion away from whether franchising is an entrepreneurial endeavour or not, and just get back to the core of entrepreneurship involves novelty. So if in fact you are just purchasing a business model that already exists and executing it, in my view, that's not entrepreneurial. Apart from the fact that you're taking risk, you're putting at risk your resources in order for a business venture, right? That's a good endeavour for people to go after. Whether it's entrepreneurial comes down to the fact as to whether novelty is in play. And if it's simply just a recipe that you're executing on, my argument would be it's not really entrepreneurial. It's certainly commercial. It's a commercial endeavour. Where somebody is taking an existing business model and looking at how it can be improved in terms of the customer's eyes or in terms of process innovation and therefore driving new margin, then that's where entrepreneurial behaviour starts to play, where novelty is brought to the business model that is being executed, either in terms of its customer experience or the way in which it's delivered, or different elements of that business model. That's where entrepreneurship sits.
If, for example, I was to say new phone, actually a brand new concept that this phone will actually work. And so I want to release this brand new product, and it hasn't been done before, that a phone will actually do what you want it to do without screaming at it. So this is the brand new product. I'm sure we all would like something like that, and maybe one day somebody will invent that. The process, though, of making that new phone that no one has before, making it work. How do I make that work?
So this is exactly what we deliver through our courses and through our sort of interventions into the community.
Because it's not build it and they will come.
So the entrepreneurial method has a very distinct discipline underneath it, which minimises the risks that you take in creating something new. And it's very agile and flexible. You might have the goal of creating the next version of the phone, which is the ultimate that the customer might look like, right? But you'll do it in such a way where you develop what's referred to as a minimally viable version of it and put it in front of customers very early to get their feedback. And there's this iterative, agile approach to developing products and services that is very consumer-centric. It's very in touch with what customers are looking for, and it does so in a way where the risk of creating the new product is broken down into small incremental steps where you're taking manageable, affordable risk step by step by step. And rather than saying, I need to develop the new phone, it's going to cost me $1.5 million over the next 18 months, let's go and do it, and then spending the 18 months and then $1.5 million and then delivering a product to market and getting crickets. Rather, I think the new attributes of this phone will be a longer battery life.
It works.
Telekinesis, whatever, right? And yeah,
that's a great idea. Just write the one down. That's great,
right? And you start to find ways to test whether telekinesis is an attribute that a customer is looking for in their phone, and you do it in a way that is so affordable that you can test whether that is a valid attribute of the product. And if it is, then you incorporate it, and you move on to the next testable attribute of the product, and you spend as short amount of time as you possibly can proving up and validating the attributes of the product that you think are new into the market. And once you get validation from your customer segment, to the extent where you're comfortable, you then start to spend the money in order to better develop it.
Money. I mean, everybody would like to do everything, but we're limited by that terrible word money. And to market, to test, to whatever you want to say for this brand new phone that it actually works, it's got other attributes to it. How important is to be capitalised, and how does someone go about that? I mean, you got this brand new product, you go to a bank and say, Mr. Bank Manager, I've got this new product, it's whiz bang, no one's done it before, it's a phone that works. He says, you're dreaming, as we know from Victoria, that movie. But how would they go about that? What's the process of putting that dream or making that dream into reality?
I'd like to broaden the statement to say money is just one kind of resource.
Right.
And entrepreneurs are actually extraordinarily capable at leveraging resources, not just their own. And
mum and dad,
friends, and non-financial resources, people's Slack resources. Yeah, finding Slack resources that exist that you can leverage into your endeavour. So there's this Harvard Business School professor, Howard Stevenson, who famously quoted that entrepreneurship is the pursuit of opportunity without regard to the resources needed in order to be able to achieve it. And entrepreneurs have a way of being able to corral resources. They talk to people. They're very collaborative. They co-create, and they are able to sell a vision and have others that share that vision come in and contribute to the achievement of that vision. So money is just one concept. And money is, if I ever have someone come across to me and say, I've got this idea, I just need to raise 50 grand in order to be able to get it off the ground, my number one advice is to find a way where you can validate it without spending 50 grand. Like, spend $500 and validate it, and then tell that story to other people and see what happens.
Do you think the word and the meaning of, in some ways, entrepreneur is, I mean, say for Australia, say for the Gold Coast, do you think it's too American? Because it is, it's part of the American language. Every second person's an entrepreneur, and a lot do it very well. Here, it's like, too much like America. So is the concept or the idea or the word, the meaning of all that sort of stuff, is it too American, and then does it suit the Australian or the Gold Coast way of life?
So I'm going to put a different perspective in your head.
Okay.
Entrepreneur is a French word. It comes from...
And I knew that part. That was an expert.
It comes from the French capitalists, often from the realm of theatre, and was popularised in the US with Broadway. But the entrepreneurial endeavour has its roots in French capitalism. And if we look at the Gold Coast and whether entrepreneurship is, or being an entrepreneur is distinctly a Gold Coast agenda, for example, we have more business entities per capita than any other city in Australia here on the Gold Coast. There are 60,000 registered companies on the Gold Coast at a rate that is the highest in our nation.
I never knew that.
We are the enterprise city.
Is that, and here's the thing, when you come to the Gold Coast, or you visit the Gold Coast, you notice it's almost at times like a mini America. because it is all the names of the streets and Santa Barbara Boulevard and that sort of stuff. Miami, even Mermaid Beach used to be called Los Angeles. So all these. So do you think there's this sort of psyche that the acceptance of part of the Americanism, such as entrepreneur, being French?
Yeah, look, I think the Gold Coast is increasingly gaining its own momentum as an enterprise city, and we're kind of like the little sister of Brisbane, but we're distinct and we're different and we're connected. It's one of the great things about Queensland. The Queensland entrepreneurship scene is very connected. It's very distinct in the Australian market. There's been a real resurgence of sort of this startup culture around Australia. Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Newcastle, anywhere is attempting to have it. And what we see in Queensland is a real united front on driving entrepreneurial outcomes in our state. And it's been led by some significant people. Significant not in terms of, they're really well known. Significant because of their give first community mentality. And the state government Advanced Queensland initiative, $600 million to support innovative capability and job creation for Queensland, certainly legitimised a lot of the actions that were already happening. People like Steve Baxter with River City Labs, Aaron Berkey with startup. What did he call it down here? Silicon Beach, it was called down here on the Gold Coast.
Wonderful.
Yeah, as an early mover, but like Aaron was on the board of Startup Oz. He spent time in with the Department of Industry and Innovation in the state government and has done the hard yards in driving an innovation agenda through Queensland, and the result is a very connected, community-driven ecosystem that is very supportive. And we see that coming out in these, like the Gold Coast Hub, Cohort, which is up on, so there are now collectives around which entrepreneurial endeavour is forming. And the emergence of the co-working space, we're talking about Miami, Hotel Miami, Karma Co-working.
Yes.
Like in and around Burleigh, I reckon there's about 30 separate spots where entrepreneurs are gathering and gaining the support of a community in order to grow their ventures.
So what ages, what demographics?
So awesome question, because people always think, it's the 20-something in a hoodie that's running out of a garage and eating ramen noodles. It's the entrepreneur, right? But it's not. Evidence, and we don't have it here in Australia, good reporting, but evidence out of the US shows that the average age of a first-time successful entrepreneur is 42.
Well, so is that because they've either worked...
So it comes back to this concept.
Or have they kept trying and trying and trying until they are a success?
Good question. No, it comes back to this view that entrepreneurs are very frugal and are resourceful with respect to their resources. And if you imagine a 40-something-year-old, they've had a career. They've built a network. So their community of people they can co-create with is larger. They probably have a bit of a reputation. They have some skills. And maybe a little bit of savings in the bank as well. And if they haven't got kids which are holding them down because they've got mixed, holding them down is the wrong word, their priorities are disparate from their business venture, right? And if they're free from that, then all of a sudden they've got significant resources they can put to bear on an entrepreneurial venture.
Tell us about the Bond Business Accelerator program and what's it about, who can enrol, and maybe a success story.
Wonderful. So we just finished our 7th Bond Business Accelerator.
Wow.
We've graduated 102 future founders out of that venture.
That must be exciting for you.
It's magic.
Wow.
It's a formal course. It didn't start off as such. It started off as a collaboration with the University of Sydney, actually, with the student union out of University of Sydney. There was there is a guy named James Alexander who, as a student, decided that the student union needed to take into their own hands that they needed to drive entrepreneurship on campus. And they got some Sydney-based entrepreneurs like a range of different people down there to be able to support it, and they created an incubator. It was called Incubate, and so we partnered with them the very first time in 2014, and then it was converted into a course, and we put discipline in behind it, and essentially it's a 12-week startup boot camp. It takes people who have ideas that are yet to be commercialized and puts discipline, accountability and expertise around the startup journey. There's weekly deliverables. It's very mentor heavy. So we've got a community of industry mentors that willingly give their time, and our ultimate goal is to take a future founder who comes into the Bond Business Accelerator and accelerate their progress like tenfold in the 12 weeks that we have them. So instead of spending 2.5 years trying to develop their business idea, they do it in 12 weeks.
So how do they enrol?
So the other awesome bit about the Bond Business Accelerator is anybody can enrol. It's not, you don't have to be a Bachelor of Business doing a major in entrepreneurship in order to enrol, although you can. Yeah,
it helps.
You can be doing medicine here at Bond and enrol in the Bond Business Accelerator. You can be a community member who just wants to come and do one course on campus and wants it to be the Bond Business Accelerator and enrol. It's open to anybody.
What makes Bond University so different? Because it is different. I mean, it's not like your brick and mortar of some of the Melbourne Uni and stuff.
Yes.
This is it just feels different.
Yes, thank you. So we just turned 30, so we're very young, right?
Yes.
So we turned 30 in May this year. We were founded by an entrepreneur, and we were founded in a spirit of free enterprise. It's in our bones. It always has been. We are a boutique, high-touch, high-value educator with an average staff to student ratio in our classes of less than 11.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Compared to other options that students have in the 30s and 40s. Like, class sizes are 3 to 4 times smaller.
But what about funding? I mean, who funds Bond University?
So students fund Bond University.
Yep.
We don't get federal government funding. I think our revenue line is something like 92% student fee driven. So we live and die by our student experience. We are all about the student experience because they are our major source of revenue.
Is this almost the American model?
I think we certainly came. Like, if I look back as to the founding group that put the vision behind Bond University, they were looking certainly to disrupt the Australian university space.
And they did.
Yeah, they did. And we still are.
Keep it going.
Yeah. And so we do things differently. Like, we have strong connection between lecturers and students. Originally, like, in order to come to Bond, you had to pay full fare, right? Cash up front. Like semester by semester. Today, an undergrad degree, I think, is in most of them around $90,000, $95,000, something like that. I'm not in marketing, so I might be wrong, but it's somewhere about that. Put that back 30 years, and whatever that equal amount, people were paying that amount of money to come here.
What about the accelerated program? What does that cost to enrol?
$5,000.
Yes, great value.
It's massive.
Yep. And even for those in business, it's too much information is never enough.
No.
Okay, out of all your time teaching, any business that you've gone, wow, that business is the standout business that's got something that I've just seen that grow, become fantastic, because you've seen all these businesses.
Yeah. So you asked earlier about any successes out of the Bond Business Accelerator. Out of our first program, we had a company called service.com.au, which is a Gold Coast-based employer now, employs about 30-odd staff. In the precursor to the Bond Business Accelerator, we had 2 founders who went on to start Atlantis Resources, which is the world's largest tidal energy company, based out of Singapore and Scotland. So we've got some big successes out of that. But every year I take a group of students across to Silicon Valley. I was just there last week. And
interesting part of the world.
It's magic.
Yeah.
I'm still on a high.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Come down.
Yeah. And we visit a range of different companies there. And there's one that we have visited every single year. I just did my 7th trip. And one that we've been to every single year is a company called Armada Health. And I think they are like an aspirational business.
Why?
Because they are perfectly aligned around a purpose. Their mission statement is to inspire and enable people to live free of chronic disease. And every single element of their business model, their staff, who they hire, the way in which they work, the snacks that are in the kitchen that are all very healthy, their revenue model is directly linked to the health impact they have on the people that are running through their programs.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's an unbelievable example of a purpose-driven company that has it running all the way through their organisation. They are so authentic in the way in which they deliver on their mission that in the time that we've seen them, when we first went in 2015, they were sitting at about 120 staff. This last week, they're at about 450. They just raised $75 million to continue their growth. They've got follow-on funders that are continuing the growth of this firm. It's a, in my mind, it is the aspirational business model.
What do you see as the greatest challenge for an entrepreneur these days?
So I think the challenges for entrepreneurs have been the same all the way along. You're doing something new, and depending on how new it is, you are constantly having to convince people that what it is that you're doing is valid. So there's this persuasion piece that exists. And so when you ask people what defines an entrepreneur, often you'll get a response of determination, resilience, courage, because the entrepreneurial journey is fraught with danger,
It is.
Yeah. And so you need that. And there's a program that was running out of the Office of the Chief Entrepreneur in Queensland's Chief Entrepreneur, who's currently Leanne Kemp from CEO of Everledger. Originally was Steve Baxter, then it was Mark Sowerby, some really wonderful Queensland-based entrepreneurs. And it's called the Queensland Venture Program. It's run by Ben Southall, who won the best job in the world that was promoted by Queensland Tourism. Yeah, he's just an epic individual. And its number one goal was to build resilience in Queensland's entrepreneurial ecosystem. And it takes members of the entrepreneurial community and disconnects them from the world for a week and builds strength in community and strength in numbers around the resilience in driving an entrepreneurial venture through a set of experiences that challenge you physically and emotionally and spiritually, if that's your gig. It's an intervention that was funded by Advance Queensland, that government initiative that was specifically targeted at building resilience in entrepreneurs.
Technology, it can be a bane to our lifestyle because this doesn't work. That's why that phone that will work all the time is always important. But technology, you got all the apps, social media is expanding. One facet of that piece of technology or technology that will change probably the way we do business from now.
Yeah, so in my mind, technology exists to enable humans to be more effective.
Right.
That's why it exists.
So there's nothing though that say
IBM Watson,
Messenger or those things. Something like that will change how we do business.
Oh yeah,
something stands out.
Never before have we been exposed to such technological advance that is challenging the very understanding of the way in which commerce occurs. So you can go to elements like machine learning and how that is influencing the way in which work is done. So it's finding its way into intelligent bots, which form the basis of robotic process automation, which is automating a bunch of manual, repeatable skills within organizations, freeing up humans to be free of that time-consuming work and to do higher-order work and driving effectiveness through organizations. And then, there's robotics and there's nanotechnology and there's, the future of humans, the very future of humans. We're now splicing genes and potentially have the capability of removing unwanted genetic defects out of humans.
Well, that's been done now with my football club, St Kilda. they've extracted all the skill part, and you can see what's happened to them. So it's around. Carlton is another one, but I won't go into that. Look, there has to be, though, something out there, the one thing that says to you, business is going to change in a particular direction because of that particular thing.
So if we just take blockchain as an example, right? Let's imagine a world where there are now ubiquitous currencies that aren't bound, by geographic demarcations, that are used across borders. And let's imagine now there's a Queensland-based startup called FlowPay where payments can now be made incrementally for products and services using globally relevant currencies. Imagine the impact that has on trade and the manner in which trade occurs, and where the value in supply chains gets redistributed because people's power bases don't exist anymore, because they're not a point of obligatory passage anymore. That's one example. Let's imagine autonomous cars. You probably have Spotify on your phone.
Yes.
We now consume music on a rental basis as we need it. Let's imagine autonomous cars at scale, where we have Uberify or whatever, right? Which is my rental. It's my Spotify for cars, and I don't own a car anymore. There's so many reasons why autonomous cars at scale should work. That each of us having our own car is so inefficient, economically inefficient. There's all this infrastructure that exists around us having our own cars. We need to park them. We need to do it. Why can't we just all be free of cars and just have a fleet of things that we just press a button, it comes and it takes us where we need to go?
We're having trouble making phones work. So when somebody makes the telephone work as it should,
it's going to happen. I don't know when it is, but it's going to happen when car ownership is a thing of the past. There are big, massive fleet companies that own the fleets of vehicles. All retail-facing mechanic stores and super cheap autos and insurance companies, paddle beater shops, all disappear because they'll all be centralised around hubs servicing fleets.
Where do I go on a weekend? I mean,
wherever you want, in whatever car you want, whenever you want, at a marginal cost that is far lower than you owning your own car.
But not to a super cheap auto.
No, you won't be going to super cheap auto.
Leave Bunnings alone, all right? I love those sausage sizzles. Okay, if somebody wants to find out more about the Bond Business Accelerator Program, how do they do that?
They go to bond.edu.au/something or other. Bond.edu.au and find. Just search Bond Business Accelerator.
Yeah. Go to your phone; it might work.
Yeah.
Baden, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Here's what's happening.
Do brunch and talk bigness. Let's connect and talk big vision. This will be a casual brunch with connection at its core. This brunch will include a Q&A open to questions about collaboration, lightning speed implementation, pitching, big visions, conscious leadership, and what it's really taken to get here. The event is free to attend and everyone will order their own food and or coffees. It's at the Dust Temple, 54 Currumbin Creek Road, Currumbin Waters. And to find out more, visit the website dusttemple.com.au. And on Friday, September the 6th from 7 to 8:30am, it's the BNI Business Networking Breakfast at the Tweed Heads Bowls Club. For more information, visit the website bnigoldcoast.com.au. And that's the latest. I'm Darren McCarthy for Coast Business Radio.
The average Australian farmer produces enough food to feed 600 people. And 93% of our daily food supply nationwide. So when our farmers are impacted by natural disasters, there's a direct effect on all of us. Our farmers need you. Please give generously at ruralaid.org.au.
You're listening to the Coast Business Radio podcast.
Shane Atkins and his business partner Darren Barnes founded Ghost Racks, a Gold Coast company that designs floor and wall racks for surfboards. Their racks are unique and are used for all sorts of customers, from pro surfers to Quicksilver Pro to collectors, hotels and galleries. Shane, great to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for dressing for the occasion.
Always.
Real seaweed look there, or a surfer look, seaweed. Never call a surfer a seaweed, but the real Gold Coast look looks fantastic.
Thanks.
Okay, tell us about Ghost Racks and how it started.
Okay, so Ghost Racks was born from myself being a collector of surfboards, in particular Mark Richards surfboards, and I just couldn't find anything that was aesthetically pleasing.
It's a big word.
Aesthetic. It is. It is for a surfer.
A bit earlier, that's right, for a seaweed.
So I couldn't find anything that was, pleasing to the eye, and I looked online, did a lot of research and that, and then thought, okay, well maybe we can do something ourselves, and along with the other co-founder, Darren Barnes, he's my brother-in-law, and he's a plastics fabricator. So we looked at doing something out of clear acrylic instead of the timber, the metal, the plastic that most surfboard racks are made of today, big, bulky and all that. So from there we did a lot of prototypes, sort of friends and family saw the product.
Guinea pigs.
Yeah.
If it falls on your head, doesn't work. Oops.
And all, it just grew from there. With that, we've had a lot of tweaking. We've learnt a lot. We don't want to lose who we are as far as how we started. But that's how the company started.
But that's really hard, though, because success, you've got to change. You can't be this little small business, because if you get bigger, the small business will then probably get smaller because you can't handle the orders and the development.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for 2.5 years now.
It's not bad, though, is it?
No, I mean, the money gets just reinvested back into the business, obviously, but we're still having fun, and that's the main thing. So recyclable. Yep. Our product is. It's Australian design and made. We do a lot of custom work, and I believe that we're the only company out there in the surfboard racks that is doing custom, and that's worldwide, because we have a lot of people from all over the world that come to us.
So how do you promote yourself? I mean, is it just word of mouth, or is it social media campaigns, using all of that?
All of that. We're purely online. We are in surf shops, but not from a retail perspective. We are online and social media. That's how we promote ourselves. Word of mouth, by all means. So the word's getting out, and I suppose the biggest and the hardest thing for us from the start was, how do we get clear acrylic seen on a computer or an iPhone, or the imagery, and that's been the hardest thing, because our slogan is, what you don't see is what you get.
Yeah, it's fantastic, actually.
So that's been the hardest thing, because people don't realise the quality, I suppose, of the product. They think it's plastic, but it's clear acrylic. It's very strong, until they've actually got it in their hands, or they're at a shop and they can see it and touch it.
So how do you then get around that? I mean, if you're looking, as you said, on a computer, you really can't get the appreciation for what it is. So how do you convince them to take the product?
Okay, so we started off with photos, pics, and it does our product proud, and that's what it's all about. But you can't see it. Not that you can't see it, but it's very minimal. So we had to look at 3D rendering drawings, computer CAD drawings that we have on our website now. So we've tweaked our website as we've gone along, and that shows people, the outline of the product.
That's right. It's there.
Yeah, it's there, all right. And then you've got, the product shots themselves done on black background. So, that probably took us, I would say, 1.5 years.
Wow.
Just from the first website through, and how it's changed. So, and we'll keep on changing.
And being associated with names, just for example, Quicksilver.
Yes.
Has that helped?
Yeah, by all means. Quicksilver, those big brands, and it is all about brand association. And how do we get out there? So we've taken our time with that as well, being patient. Quicksilver, Mark Richards, we've got Firewire, Kelly Slater Design. We've got Jamie O'Brien, big wave surfer in Hawaii. Rob Machado, Hurley. Brands like that are very, well respected in the market. So we've been patient, and it's paid off.
They're big names, but have you? And obviously they've helped. How did you though get those big names to be associated with yourself? Because they must get a lot of requests.
Yes.
So was it the smile? Was it the cool dude thing? How did you do it?
Well, the big break that we got was with a mate of mine. I've got to do a shout out to him, Richie Edmondson from Brand Stylist, and he helped a lot with Ghost Racks at the beginning there. And we were at Currumbin, and he said, let's just walk in. And we went into Firewire.
Yep.
Okay, which very well-known brand. Firewire, which is, Kelly Slater and Tomo boards, and took the Wrath, the stand-up model in there, and they came out and they looked at it and just went, wow, we got to get this over to our CEO over in the States, Mark Price, get him to have a look at it, because they were going to be having a trade show.
Oh, wow.
So that trade show, we sent over a sample. They liked it. They ordered. And I said to Darren, if Firewire put in that order, we're going. So we knew what was out in the market. But
a domestic market compared to the international market,
correct.
Different psyche, although, a surfer's a surfer. Got to be able to put the board somewhere.
Worldwide, yeah.
Yep, so I suppose you get over that. But there's still the difference in attitudes, rules and regulations to export.
Yes.
And different countries and stuff. So how do you get around that?
We've been, different countries, that's the thing. So you learn as you go. We've got design applications, which is the next best thing to patents, okay, in certain countries. 5 countries out there where we feel our biggest markets are. In regards to getting it to those countries, there's been a couple of times where it has come back, or the client on the other end has had to pay more.
Well,
yeah, which is unbeknown, to us. Not a lot, I would say probably 2 to 3% of our sales have gone that way.
Did you have help in Australia, Austrade, for example, on these? Did you source their advice or their help, or you thought, okay, we're going to do it ourselves?
Basically, we did it ourselves,
wow.
Yeah. So we didn't source. Like I said, we've learned a lot along the way. We've had some good advice. I suppose from a government point of view, we've going down the grants side, and we've gained 1 grant, and we're looking at more at the moment, which has been a big help too.
Yep.
But how do you find out about that? A lot of small businesses, it's not advertised, I suppose, out there.
Trying to keep it a secret, sort of. Don't take our money.
Yeah, I hear.
Yeah?
So, just stumbled across it by talking to other people, not in the surf industry, but just other like-minded people in startups or small business, and just went, okay, well, we'll investigate it more. So, yeah, it's knowing how to go about it, which you've got to learn yourself.
From the start, 2.5 years ago, to now, how's the attitude changed? How's your thinking changed? Because it would have changed from, take on the world, the universe. There's Pluto, Uranus up there. Well, maybe not there, but close to it. But you got all those places, you got the world.
Yeah.
And then reality sets in as you go along, because it's a lot harder than just doing that.
Damn right. And at the beginning, had grand plans. We knew that we had a great product, and the feedback that was coming back to us early in the day. But I thought we would be further ahead than where we are, to be honest. But I'm glad that we haven't.
So why aren't you further ahead? Well, what reasons are there?
I suppose it comes down to money at the end of the day. If you had X amount of money you could do a lot of things. And I think that with small business, it's getting that money. Or what are the other avenues? Grants, that helps. Investors, okay, but we want to keep it to ourselves at this stage. So.
And to not grow, I suppose, too fast, because if demand exceeds supply, you end up running around like a mad chook.
Correct.
And you don't want that to happen. So I suppose you have to do it stage by stage.
Yeah.
Frustrating?
It can be, but like I said, I'm glad it's gone this way. Darren, we talk about it often, to where we were to where we are now and how we've grown. You don't want to, overpromise, underdeliver. And what you're talking about, taking out to the market or all the world at once, can we supply that? And if we can't, well, that comes back to your brand. So it's been a steady growth.
SurfAid, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, SurfAid, we looked at...
This is where your halo really shines brightly.
Okay.
With seaweed around it.
We wanted to, made of seaweed. We wanted to give back in some way, small, big, whatever we can do. And Darren and I, along with other members of the family, we go on a surfing trip every year. And it's mainly in and around Indonesia. Okay, so that resonates with us. And we thought, all right, what's an organisation that is doing, good out there? And education. And as well as teaching other villages, I suppose, where we go, because we go to some isolated areas, and SurfAid popped up, and we got in contact with them, and they do surf events, both here in Australia and also over in the US, and so we provide product to those events. And they auction those off.
Oh, how fantastic.
Yeah. So it's a little thing, but we want to grow that.
Yep. It's an important part, being involved with the community. In the US now, there are the Democrats are trying to bring in, whether I agree with them or not, but they're trying to bring in that companies have got to be socially responsible, besides being financially responsible.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're doing that already.
Yeah.
And you're not just taking it, you're actually giving back.
Yeah. Well, it goes along with, the recycling, our product, and it can be environmentally friendly as much as we can. So education, because of, the issues, it's not just Indonesia, but, worldwide, with lack of knowledge in regards to the rubbish, bottles,
the oceans are just, you see that.
It's upsetting.
Well, you see these great clumps of rubbish, and it's just sailing around the world.
Yeah.
And there's no excuse for that except laziness.
That's right.
It's just really bad.
Laziness, and what I did learn from a recent trip earlier in the year to North Sumatra, talking with just another traveller, and she said, when we were over there, I said, I go along the beach and pick up rubbish, and our company Ghost Racks, and we try and give back, and I said, you see it here, and she said, Shane, what you need to realise is that they haven't been educated, from the beginning in regards to if they had their food, it was in a banana leaf. And then they just threw the banana leaf away.
Oh.
And then it resonated with me real hard, solid. And I went, wow.
So it's education too, isn't it?
Damn right it is, yeah.
We did a trip would have been 15, 20 years ago, and we went to Kiribati. And the thing that stood out, besides being a pretty place, was that I've never seen so many bottles and VB tinnies, empty ones, floating. And it was just like this sea of Aussie beer cans or bottles, and it looked absolutely terrible.
Sad.
So again, the education part. You should never throw out a beer. Or if it's empty, you put it in the bin.
Correct.
That's right. Okay, future for you guys?
Future. So where we see ourselves going is into, water sports, I suppose. Surf is what started us, but then we've got skate, we've got snow, we've got water, we've got wakeboarding, wake surfing, fishing. Okay. Anything that people would like to display. That it's all about what's on display, not about what's holding it.
The only thing holding it at the moment would be your resources? Because, again, if demand exceeds supply, a lot of businesses can't handle it. Be careful what you wish for, they say.
Correct. So, that's got to be not a slow build. I won't say slow build, but it's got to be educated. It's got to be structured correctly going into these other markets. We've done custom bike racks for bicycles, which we see a big market. People are starting to put their sporting equipment and showing it. All right, so it comes from an interior design perspective as well.
So you're a Gold Coaster. You're part of the whole scenery. What does the Gold Coast mean to you? Because you actually do business. You're actually exporting, so you're really exporting what the Gold Coast is about, being surf and beaches and stuff. Yeah. What does it mean to you?
Gold Coast means sun, fun, beach, surf, community, friends, family. I've just had, for instance, my brother moved from Brisbane down to the Gold Coast, a couple of months ago.
Yep.
But it's all about getting out there and using what you've got in your own backyard. Don't abuse it. But it has so much to offer, the Gold Coast. I grew up on the Sunshine Coast.
So you're a sunny boy.
Yeah.
You saw the light.
Yeah. And I never thought when I was, I think 17, 18, that I'd ever end up on the Gold Coast. Oh, too busy and everything like that. But it's not.
No, it's lovely.
It's not. You can, there's a lot of aspects to the Gold Coast.
And doing business on the coast?
Doing business on the coast, I suppose it's exciting. It ain't easy.
No. It can be a closed shop, can't it?
It can be. Who to go to. But I suppose you've got to get out there into other groups and you've got to do your research and go to, especially for small business or people that are starting out in business, have a look what's out there first and go and get advice and options and opinions from other people that are actually doing it. And so you've got to get in those groups, those communities.
Now, if somebody wants to find out more about what you do, how do they do that?
Find out, or go to our website.
Which is
ghost-racks.com. And you can go to our Instagram, which is ghost.racks.
Coast Business Radio is the home for business from the Gold Coast to Byron Bay and beyond. Stay in touch by connecting with us on Facebook and Twitter, by visiting our website at thecoastradio.com.